Hi everyone, so today video number 3 is about evaluating algebraic expressions. I guess it means, it kind of makes sense that since we're going into integrated algebra that we would be talking about algebraic expressions. But let's just review. An algebraic expression is an expression that has a variable in it, okay? An expression that has a variable in it. And if I want to evaluate it, it really just means find the value of it. Okay, when something equals something. So for example, on the most basic level, evaluate n minus 7 for n equals 15. They're saying in that equation we want to substitute 15 in for n. So we can just do 15 minus 7, which gives me 8. Now, this can get a little trickier when I have multiple variables. Now, you have to be careful because most of the time I'm going to tell you when you plug values into an expression, you should put them in parentheses. But sometimes if there's too many parentheses, that can be tricky. So here's a good case where you don't really need to put them in parentheses. I have 2 times b is 2. It's positive, so I'm going to leave it out of the parentheses. And then I can evaluate. All right, so I do 2 plus 2 because I have to follow order of operations. So I have to do GEMDAS. I have to do those grouping symbols first. So I have 2 times 4, and then I do 2 times 4, which is 8. Now, I put that dot there for multiplication. If it just said 2b plus 2 like that, you do have to remember that there's a hidden multiplication sign there. So 2 is being multiplied to that whole quantity. All right, let's look at the next example. A plus B divided by C when we want to evaluate it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug or I'm going to substitute the values in for each variable. So A is 1, B is 2, that's in parentheses, divided by 3. All right, now we've got to follow proper order of operations. So GEMDAS, we're going to do those grouping symbols first. So 1 plus 2 gives me 3. And 3 divided by 3, hopefully you see, gives me 1. Okay? All right, so hopefully this is a review for you. All right, a little bit harder. I just make more complicated equations. So I'm going to plug in my values. I'm going to substitute in my values. So 3 times 4. Now notice I put a times symbol because 3 is being multiplied to z. I can either put that symbol or parentheses because parentheses means multiply. So I can do that minus 4 times x, which is 2. So I just used a lot of parentheses there. All right, 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 2 is 8, so 12 minus 8 is 4. All right, in B again, we're going to evaluate, but now we've got a fraction bar, so we've got to be careful. So we have 4 plus 3 all over 4 minus 3. Now remember, we've got addition and subtraction in the numerator and the denominator, so that fraction bar now has become a grouping symbol. We have to do the top and the bottom before we can simplify. So 4 plus 3 gives me 7, 4 minus 3 gives me 1. See, we can't cancel those 4s or we'd be doing bad algebra. And so my answer would be 7. All right. Last one, we've got a fraction. So we know that we're going to plug in our values. We're going to substitute in our values. So z is 4 and x is 2. So 4 minus 2. We're going to follow proper order of operations. So 4 minus 2 is 2. So I have 1/2 times 2. The 2's simplify to 1. So our answer, again, is 1. Looky there. All right. Now, how do we make this a little bit harder? Well, because this is integrated algebra, we're going to be doing geometry as well. So it says the area formula for a rectangle. Now, you might not be saying to yourself, I don't even remember what a rectangle is. So a rectangle is a 4-sided figure. It has 4 right angles, and those boxes that I'm drawing in there mean that those angles are right angles. And opposite sides are equal. We use these little hash marks to say that they're equal to each other. So I know that this side and this side are equal, and I know that this side and this side are equal. All right. It says evaluate or find the area when the length is 25 and the width is 12. Well, a couple things. We need to review the area formula for a rectangle. So area is length times width. couple things you should know though. The length is always the longer side in a rectangle, okay? All right, so if we want to evaluate, we have to first write our formula. So we have to recall the formula, and then we substitute our values into the formula. All right, so we do 25 times 12. All right, now you might be grabbing your calculator, but let's talk about doing 25 times 12. Did you know that you could break up 12 into 10 plus 2? Okay. Isn't 10 plus 2 12? And then you could actually multiply in parts if you wanted to. You could do 25 times 10, which we know to be 250, and then 25 times 2, which we know to be 50, and then add them together. That's a way to do mental math. So our area would be 300. Now, because we're talking about area, that means that it's a different kind of unit. It's not a linear unit, it's a square unit. So we would write units squared. All right, so I might be quizzing you on that area formula for a rectangle. All right, one more. Oh, actually two more. Simplify. So I want you to practice this because this is a great order of operations question. So remember, we always follow GEMDAS. So we go and do everything inside the grouping symbols first. Here are my grouping symbols. So I have to do 3 squared, which is 9 plus 1. And then 9 plus 1 gives me 10. Now I have to do the multiplication and division, whichever comes first, and it looks like multiplication comes first. So 4 times 5 gives me 20, divided by 10. So 20 divided by 10 gives me 2, and 2 minus 1 gives me 1. When you're doing order of operations question, I want you to really think about like a volcano. We always start bigger, and you want to show each step that you're doing. And each step should make it a little bit smaller until you finally get to the bottom. So it almost looks like a volcano. That's how I always do my order of operations questions. All right, last one to evaluate. This one is called the area of a trapezoid, okay? The area of a trapezoid. So a trapezoid is a 4-sided figure, so it's a quadrilateral that has one pair of opposite sides parallel. That's a trapezoid. The height of a trapezoid is actually a segment, a perpendicular segment, meaning it creates a right angle with the bases. So that's the height of a trapezoid. And base 1 is the top, and base 2 is the bottom. And that 1 and 2 is actually a subscript. It's like lower than the letter. All right, it wants us to evaluate this formula for the area of a trapezoid. When h is 12, it should say B1, so it should be a subscript is 16, and a subscript of 2 is 48. All right, so we're going to do this. So 1/2, the height of 12, I'm actually going to put it in parentheses for myself. And then I'm going to make bigger parentheses. Base 1 is 16 plus 48. Now I'm going to follow proper order of operations. So 16 plus 48 is what? 64? All right, so we have 64, and we have 12. Those are being multiplied. And we also have the half being multiplied. All right, so now we can multiply any which way we want. We can use the commutative property. We can multiply 1/2 times 12 or 1/2 times 64. I'm actually going to do 1/2 times 12 because I just think that's going to be a little bit easier. So that's going to give me 6 times 64. All right, using that mental math skill that we had, we can actually break this up into 60 and 4. Because 6 times 60 is a little bit easier. We can do 6 times 6, which is 36, and just add a 0. And then 6 times 4 are some numbers, are math facts that we should know, which are 24. Then we add them together, and we get 384. Now remember, it was asking for area, so that's units squared. So we evaluated the area of a trapezoid using that process, okay? All right, if you really want candy on the first day of school, I'm going to be quizzing you on this formula, the area of a trapezoid. You'll have to be able to draw the picture and write the formula. And if you do, candy. All right, have a great day.